Airline apps, hotel apps, travel authorization apps. Heck, there's even an app that'll route you past the world's largest ball of twine should you need it. Today, I'm showing you the 7 travel apps that never leave my phone and the 2 that got the boot. And if you lose the phone, hang on to the end and we'll even show you a fix for that. Ready to cut down your own list to the 7 that actually work? Then stick around. A few years ago, flying a codeshare, Delta and KLM both on one ticket, I didn't trust that my seat and my bag would actually show up right in just one app. So I made sure I had both. I already had Delta SkyMiles on my phone because I'd been a member for decades. So I signed up for KLM and Air France's loyalty program that's called Flying Blue, just in case. Now, looking back, that was overkill. Nothing went wrong with the one app that, it couldn't have handled it. Delta handled it just fine. But that's the instinct. When we're not sure what we need, we just kind of grab everything and hope that one of them saves us. But here's the thing about traveling past the age of 40. Your time is worth more than it was at 25, and you don't have the patience to babysit an app that doesn't work right the first time. So this isn't a best apps list. It's the most valuable 7. And by the time we're through all of them, you'll see why they're not just 7 random winners sitting on a home screen. They function as a system, each one of them covering a job that the others can't. And that matters more than any single pick on its own. And spoiler alert, none of the 7 is an airline app because, well, there are just so many. And so it would be hard for me to tell you to pick just one. People live in different places. They fly different airlines. Look, it's okay to have multiple airline apps. There is a little concept, though, I like to call app bloat. And it's that sea of apps on your phone that causes you to scroll through page after page after page trying to find the one that you need right there in the moment. There's a real cost, though, to app bloat, and that's time. And that cost is paid the moment you actually need one to work. Maybe it's a conversation with a waiter, or a dead zone where you don't get cell coverage, or 10 minutes before a service desk closes, and you can't find the right app. Well, let's just make sure that that's not you. My son is 25 years old, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying it, but his phone is a mess. Apps everywhere, no folders, some downloaded just to see if they help. Half of them never get opened again, and that's fine at 25. But it's not how I travel at 59. I want fewer apps, and I want to be able to tell you in one sentence exactly why each one earned its spot on my phone. So here's the 7 travel apps that made my cut, category by category. I want you to think of it like building a house. You don't start with the paint color or the throw pillows. You start with a foundation because nothing else stands up without one. And that's exactly the order I'm going to give you these in. Let's start with connectivity. It's the foundation. Nothing else on this map works without a signal. Not Maps live traffic, not Translate's real-time conversation mode, not a single booking confirmation landing in your inbox on the app coming up later in this list. So this is where the build starts, with an eSIM from Saily. Whether it's the most exciting pick on this list or not, that's up to debate. But I'll make this an upfront admission. This is probably the least glamorous app on the whole list. And that's exactly why it goes first, before anything else with a screen or a story is attached to it. I've used it on the last several international trips, and it's replaced the old routine of hunting down a physical SIM card at an airport kiosk after a 9-hour flight, hoping they had the right one in stock, that it actually fit my phone, and the guy behind the counter spoke enough English to set it up correctly before my ride showed up outside. Now, you set it up once before you leave home. Just a few taps, pick your data plan, enter a credit card number, and you're done. And it's already on and working the moment you land. No kiosk, no language barrier, no gambling on whether the shop even has the right one in stock for that particular day. I went deep on exactly how this works and why in an earlier episode. More on that at the very end of this one, so if you want the full walkthrough, stick around. And then, to be clear, Saily is the one that I use. Your international data provider might end up being a completely different one, and that's perfectly fine too. The point isn't this specific app, it's that connectivity has to be the very first thing that you solve before anything else on this list can even begin to do its job properly. Foundation poured, now it's time to frame it up. On to navigation, and for that, I use Google Maps. It's the framing now that goes up on our house next. Once you've got a signal, the next thing that has to work is knowing exactly where you are, because every other app on this list kind of assumes you already do. Translation apps, currency apps, all of them. I download offline maps myself before I land every single trip, no exceptions. So even if that signal from Saily drops for a stretch, I'm not standing on some random street corner, squinting at a phone screen that just won't load, trying to figure out which direction is even north. It also means I'm not burning through data the moment I land before I've even made it out of the terminal. Now, downloading a map takes about 30 seconds before you board. Search the city, tap the download icon, Done. That map now lives on in your phone, whether you ever pick up a signal again for the rest of your trip or not. I learned this trick a few years ago deep in a tube station in London, watching the little dot freeze in place while the app spun and spun and spun, looking for a connection that was never going to show up. Now, the good news is I was in London, so I could read all the signs and figure out directions all on my own. But what if I were in Istanbul or Kolkata or Chongqing? That's the reason this is the second thing I set up right after connectivity, before I ever open a single other app on this list. Your translation app can't help you order dinner if you can't find the restaurant. Your currency converter doesn't matter if you never make it to the store or the cash register. Once the foundation's poured and the framing is up, everything else in this build starts to make sense. All right, let's keep going. For communication, I use Google Translate. Now, here's where the wiring starts to go into your new home. Camera mode reads a menu or street sign in real time, which is useful on its own. Conversation mode, though, that's the one that people really underuse, and it's really cool. It listens to both sides of a conversation and translates back and forth. So you're not passing a phone back and forth between two people, typing sentences back and forth like a note passed in study hall, which nobody past the age of 40 has patience for anymore. The real value for me showed up on a trip to Dubai, touring the Burj Al Arab with a small group. It was a few tourists from Panama, a couple from Italy, and maybe a guy from Argentina who spoke a little bit of English. The Panamanians and the Italians, though, they didn't speak a lick of English. So we used Translate to actually talk to one another. Real back and forth, not just pointing at some menu. It took some patience. There's a little lag, and you have to get comfortable with a little dead air while the app catches up. And also with the occasional mistranslation that actually makes everyone laugh instead of derailing the conversation. And that ends up being an icebreaker that's, better than a perfect translation could ever capture anyhow. But by the end of that tour, the whole group was trading stories like we'd known each other for years, comparing notes on hometowns that none of us had ever heard of before that morning. It was a lot of fun. If connectivity and navigation are the foundation and the frame, this is the stuff that makes a place actually livable, not just standing. Maps gets you to the place. Translate gets you into the room once you're there. And it's the difference between a trip where you observe a country from behind glass and one where you actually talk to people living in it. It's also the app I'd hand my son first if he only got to pick one out of this list. Everything else on this list is really about logistics. This one is about the actual reason that most of us started traveling in the first place. Let's jump into currency conversion, and for that, it's XE currency. If connectivity is the wiring, this is the plumbing. Opening it up takes less time than opening a browser and hoping you can find today's exchange rate with the right symbol attached on some page cluttered with ads for currency trading platforms that you have no interest in. XE gives you a live rate and a quick built-in calculator without digging around for either one, and without creating an account or logging into anything else first, which matters when there's a line forming up behind you at a register and everyone's waiting on you to do the math on whether 400 baht is a fair price for a tuk-tuk ride, or whether you just got taken for a ride in the other sense of that phrase entirely. It sits right along Translate in this build, unglamorous, running quietly behind the walls, doing a job you'd really only notice if it stopped working. It does exactly one job, does it in about 4 seconds, and then gets out of your way entirely. That's exactly what you want from a currency app. You don't need it to manage your finances or track your spending across the trip. You need it to answer one simple question fast, 20 times a day, without you ever having to think about it really all that much. It's just a mental shortcut and not a financial tool. Now, I've watched people try to do this math in their heads at a tourist trap shop in Playa del Carmen, trying to figure out, how many pesos should that sombrero really cost? I don't know. They usually end up either overpaying out of confusion or underpaying and causing an awkward moment for the vendor. 4 seconds with this app and the whole problem disappears before it even gets a chance to start. If you've ever caught yourself installing 3 loyalty apps out of pure panic like I did earlier, do yourself a favor, hit the like button, and then hit subscribe if you want to be here for the rest of this build. Otherwise, I'm just some guy talking to an empty room with pretty blue lighting. All right, tool belts back on, everyone. We've got 3 more to go. Next up is documentation, or what I like to call the finishing work. And for that, I use TripIt. You simply forward any confirmation emails to one email address and it builds a single itinerary automatically. Flights, hotels, rental cars, tours, all in one place. In the order that you're actually going to need them too, with time zones already converted so you're not lying awake doing math at midnight, trying to figure out if a 6 a.m. connection is physically possible with a head fogged up full of jet lag. Using TripIt means you always have one shoebox with everything that matters inside of it, instead of 6 emails, a screenshot folder, and a boarding pass you're frantically searching for while the line builds up behind you at security. Now, around 20 million travelers already run their trips through TripIt for exactly that reason. And once you've forwarded a confirmation or two, it just keeps working in the background without you having to, think about it anymore. No manual entry, no retyping a confirmation number into a spreadsheet the way I used to do back when I thought I was the most organized traveler ever. If the first 4 apps are the foundation, the frame, and the infrastructure, this is where the walls go up, nice and clean and neat. The finishing work that makes the whole place feel organized instead of just functional. It's quite simply the record keeper, the one that quietly holds everything the other apps produce. Book something through the app coming up next in this list, and the confirmation lands here too, automatically, without you lifting a single finger the second time. It's less a standalone app and more of the filing cabinet the entire trip runs through, which is exactly why it earns a spot, even though there's no glamorous use case story to go with it. Some of the best tools on this list are the boring ones, and this may be the boringest, if that's a word, most reliable one of the whole 7. If documentation is the finishing work, our next category, experiences, well, that's where the amenities start. For that, I use GetYourGuide. This is the app that turns the itinerary from some list of logistics into an actual reason to have shown up in the first place. Here's what I use it for: tours, skip the line tickets, and the occasional cooking class. And it's simpler to actually complete a booking from start to finish than the more familiar name that most people default to. Fewer screens to tap through, less re-entering the same information twice, and less second-guessing whether the booking actually went through before you close the app. There's a reason I stopped opening the other one on my own phone entirely. More on exactly why in just a minute. With GetYourGuide, you just search a city, and it surfaces the things actually worth doing while you're there. Guided tours, day trips out of the city, any number of side quests, so to speak, with real reviews from people who've actually done the exact thing you're considering doing. Filtered by date, so you're not reading some glowing review of a tour that changed hands 3 different tour operators ago, or seeing some generic star rating sitting on top of a listing that nobody's bothered to update since a review site scraped it maybe 5 years ago. This is the one that puts something on the calendar that's worth flying 8 or 10 hours for. The app that makes the difference between a trip that you took and a trip that you'll actually remember 10 years from now when somebody asks you what Rome was really like. And the honest answer involves a cooking class in Trastevere instead of just some random photo of the Colosseum taken from across a crowded street. Last up is mobility, the 7th and final pick in the lineup, and it's a surprise pick: Trainline. Some of you may have been expecting Uber or Lyft to be sitting in this spot instead, and here's why it isn't. A lot of American travelers assume a rideshare app works the same way everywhere that it's installed. It doesn't. Uber is out of mainland China entirely. Most of Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, is grab territory now since Uber sold that business back in 2018. It's gone from Russia. Now, parts of Hungary and Switzerland restrict or ban it outright. None of that means you should never use Uber. It just means just check before you land and not after. That's a 2-minute search that saves you from standing outside a station staring at an app that was never going to find you a car. All right, so let's get back to Trainline then. For getting around once you've landed, this is the tool. Specifically rail and coach travel across Europe. This is the pick instead, and honestly, the better one for exactly the situation that Uber can't cover. It covers tickets across 45 countries and more than 270 rail and coach operators in all one app, with offline tickets that can scan even without a signal, which matters more than you'd think in a station with spotty Wi-Fi like that London tube station I talked about earlier. You gotta get your data, you gotta get your information right away, and it has to be available offline. Close to 100 million people use it every single month for exactly that kind of reliability. This is the specialist for the one job the other 6 can't touch: actually moving you between cities once you're on the ground and not just around inside one of them. Every other app on this list assumes that you're staying in one place. This is the one built for when you're not. The day trip to a second city, the overnight trip to the coast, the extended leg on the trip Google Maps was never going to plan for you. Foundation, frame, infrastructure, finishing, and now the last is amenities. The house is fully built. Let's take a moment and talk about the 2 that got the boot. Viator first. I still have it on my phone, and cleanup's honestly overdue at this point, but I stopped opening it once I compared it side by side with GetYourGuide. Same tours, same tickets, just more steps to actually get from browsing to a confirmed booking. That's it. That's the whole reason. Wise is a hard cut too, because it's genuinely a good product, but it's just built for a different job. Moving and holding money across currencies long term with real account setup involved, that's just too much for a 10-day trip, and that's more tool than you need. XE just gives you the number that you need and then gets out of the way. 7 apps, 7 distinct jobs. Connectivity makes the other 6 possible in the first place. Navigation gets you there. Communication gets you talking. Currency keeps you honest at the register. Documentation holds the paperwork together. Mobility gets you from city to city once you've landed. And experiences, well, that fills the itinerary with something worth flying for. Individually, that's just 7 decent apps, but together, well, it's a blueprint. Every piece assigned a job, every job depending on the one before it. These 7 earn their spot. No fillers. The most valuable 7. Full stop. Here's a combination worth setting up before you go. TripIt syncs with Google Maps. Just tap the hotel address inside your TripIt itinerary, and then it hands off straight to turn-by-turn navigation. No retyping an address you've already typed once back when you booked the hotel room in the first place. 2 specialists doing one job together that neither one does quite as well alone. Oh, and one more thing just as quick. Before you tap confirm on a tour through GetYourGuide, a quick check in XE currency tells you whether that price is actually reasonable and not scary expensive just because it's priced in a currency where every number looks bigger than it really is. 2 apps, 10 seconds, and you book with actual confidence instead of just a guess. One last super important thing before you move in, and it's not on the blueprint because, well, it's what the whole blueprint sits upon. Every one of these 7 apps assumes one thing that's easy to forget: the phone itself. If this dies, gets left in the cab, or gets lost or stolen overseas, well, the best blueprint in the world just doesn't matter. There's no foundation left to build on. So before you leave, turn on Find My if you're on the iPhone platform, or Find My Device if you're on Android. It takes you about 30 seconds, and it's the one setting that protects the entire build if the phone goes missing. Call it the final inspection, if you will, the one that happens after the house is built, making sure it's actually safe for you to move into. Now, let me ask, have you ever actually had to use Find My or Find My Device to track down a lost or stolen phone on the road? Tell us how it went down in the comments below. I want to know if it worked when it really mattered most. And you remember how I mentioned earlier that there was more to that Saily story? Well, here it is over here. The full breakdown and exactly how Saily and eSIMs work. No physical SIM cards, no hunting down an airport kiosk. Everything already set up before you even leave the house. And that, my friends, is better latitude. We'll see you over there.